Hey everyone, I hope you're doing great. Welcome to week number 8. We're getting closer and closer to the end. So this week we will continue the discussion around ethical implications, considerations, the ethical dilemma. And one thing I want you to think about is in your past, have you ever uncovered an ethical situation and how did you handle it? And if you've not, you have to sit down and you have to think, okay, what would I do? And what's the best course of action? And most companies, most organizations, even SNHU, they have a mechanism to report, ethical behaviors and this sort of thing. It's an ethics line, and you can bring these type of issues to that reporting structure, and then those are, of course, they're documented, and then as process of being documented, they're investigated. A lot of times, if you leave your contact information, they'll come back and they'll say, this is what we found. A lot of times they can't go into details about, what steps they took, but they'll at least come back to you and say, the case is closed and this is kind of what was found if they can do so. Um, in my career, I've stumbled upon a few ethical situations where, it involves some employees. Actually, I've had 3 instances of theft, and it's when I say this, it's not someone taking an ink pen home. We had one time where we actually had to, contact the FBI and have them come in along with the Department of Justice into a situation where we had some employees, doing some bank wire fraud type situations. So, you think it'll never happen to me. You think it'll never happen at the company I work for, but always keep that in your mind. Keep your radar up and realize, when something doesn't necessarily feel right, go with your gut instinct and always ask the question and be prepared. Okay, how would I handle that situation? So that's kind of key. Um, so if you need any additional support, have any questions around the ethics thing, please feel free to reach out. Of course, you can, drop me an email. You can ask a question on the discussion board as well, and I can answer it there. Don't forget to do your Excel for accounting course. Try to get the first 2 lessons done by this week. It's not due until the very last moment of class, but please don't put it off until the very last moment because there's a lot of material to cover there. And if you put it off until the last few hours of class, you may run out of time. So please don't forget that. Also, as part of the announcements this week, you have a consulting report. You have the consulting report here on Real Recruit. So make sure that you go in, you read the requirements, and you also read the rubric. Can't stress that enough, whether it's this class or another class in the future, always read this rubric. If you satisfy each and every question in that rubric, then you automatically get 100. Well, not automatically, but you definitely fall further to the left than if you just completely left something out. So always try to follow that the rubric. So as part of this consulting report, you're going to recommend business practices that impact business decisions. So that's really what you're trying to do is you're trying to recommend those business practices, and key things that companies do around. I'll try to help you along here. How companies do ethics. They do mandatory employee training. For example, the company I work for, we do business in many countries. So we have export training, we have import training, we have, training around financial records, data integrity, commercial transaction handling. And these are all mandatory trainings that you have to go to. If you are going to be an employee and you don't go to that training, then We basically take away your access to your computer until you get that training done. And that's the only thing that you can focus on. And that's the reason that is because everything you watch in these training videos and you think that would never happen here, I'll guarantee you it's happened. There's a reason that it's in those training videos. And specifically when you talk about things like sharing of information. So if you have a coworker that works in sales and, they leave and go to a competitor and you go have dinner and have a drink with them, you may inadvertently share information you're not supposed to share. And they'll train you that way in those videos. So that's a good way for you to kind of have a clue. That doesn't mean you have to never talk to your friend again, but at the same time, you can't share certain information around customers, pricing, market strategy, that sort of thing. So, one way we handle ethics is training, virtual training now more than anything. The other way you handle ethics is the control framework around your business. So you do ICS, SOX compliant type checks, um, and things of this nature. So you also have an ethics line. So if somebody suspects anything that's gone wrong, they can report something up immediately. So basically, if you call the 800 number, or you drop an email to the ethics line at my company, it goes to the head of internal audit, which the head of internal audit, she works for the audit committee. She does not work specifically for someone within the organization. I think her official reporting line is to the CEO. But then her dotted line is to the audit committee of the company, and then she's responsible for assigning people to look into these ethics complaints. That way, there's a kind of an independent view of any type of complaints that come in. So that's just some suggestions. By no means do you have to use it, but as you go through your case, think about what recommendations you would make there. One thing that I was watching this past week, sometimes I'll turn Hulu on or Netflix and I'll watch something while I work. And I found something called the Panama Papers. And this was something in the news not too long ago, but it's, I think, maybe a couple years ago. But I'm sitting here listening to this and I'm like, I didn't even hear that much about it. But then, of course, they talk about how widespread it was in the news. But what the Panama Papers is it kind of fits well into this. Is it legal, and then also is it ethical type discussion, right? So what the Panama Papers is the ultra rich people in our communities have the ability to kind of exploit company structures in tax havens. And while it's maybe not illegal to do so, it's not really so ethical, and it's not so socially acceptable to be doing so. So I can't remember if it was Hulu or Netflix or who had it, but there's a like an hour long episode on the Panama Papers, which if you get time and you're kind of bored and have nothing to do, that's kind of interesting to watch. And even some of the key world leaders have kind of all been wrapped up into this tax sheltering type concept that flows through Panama. Is where it flows through. Thus the name Panama Papers. I'll also post a video that my lead shared with me. It's a good video. Maybe it can help you guys. You can pick up some points from that. Otherwise, if you have any questions during the week, please feel free to reach out. You guys had a lot of items to turn in week 7, so I'll try to kind of grade those throughout the week and get those back to you. So otherwise, have a wonderful week, and if you need anything, please feel free to reach out.